Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, the latest on the legislature's special session to settle an education funding lawsuit. Also tonight, a Yuma City councilman-elect talks about his challenges as a kidney transplant recipient. And a photography exhibit takes a unique look at 26 Phoenix City blocks. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Former Democratic state lawmaker Jack Brown died yesterday. He was 86. Brown was first elected to the state legislature in 1962 and served 17 terms spanning nearly 5 decades. Brown hailed from St. John's in the White Mountains and was known as an advocate for rural issues and a consensus builder who worked to bridge partisan differences. Jack Brown dead at the age of 86. State lawmakers observed a moment of silence to honor Brown as the legislature began a special session last night to settle an education funding lawsuit. The session continued today with lawmakers considering a proposal to settle the suit with about $300 million a year going to schools over the next decade. Much of the money would be taken from the state's land trust, an idea that requires voter approval to change the state's constitution.
And that's the biggest issue for me. The governor had introduced the state trust land plan a while back as a way to get new money into the classroom, and now the entirety of that plan is rolled into the settlement. The settlement isn't new money, it's paying a bill that we owe, that we've owed for the last 5 years. It's not even paying the whole bill. And so now that we've lost the opportunity to talk about the state trust land plan on its own as new money into schools after we settle the lawsuit.
It's a short-term fix that's going to leave a long-term scar. Under the current wording, there is going to be a short-term infusion of cash, but it's already the school's own money. And so what they're doing is they're taking the school's own money, giving to them sooner, but then where's the money going to be down the road? It's the equivalent to if in your retirement account you cashed out half the money and spent it right now. Well, do you have more money? It sure seems like you do, and you tell your friends you do, and you've just bought a nice car. But down the road, the next year, half your money's gone. You have less money forever. So in the long term, this is less money for schools. We have to fix it so we're not spending principal, only interest. And that's one of the first things we could do to at least make this better for schools in the long term.
And joining us now with the latest on the special session and the proposed settlement of the education lawsuit is Arizona Capital Times editor Jim Small. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. There's so much to get to. Let's start with the state land trust and using the fund and the idea that you're spending money that you really kind of already had. How is that going over at the Capitol?
It's certainly one of the focal points of the discussion as to, is this wise? Is this the right way to do it? Are we really just paying schools with money that's really already theirs? It's in a trust that's set up, designed to benefit them. But the reality is that this is a deal that was agreed to by all the litigants in this lawsuit. So it was agreed to by the school districts that sued, by the teachers union that sued, by the industry group that represents a bunch of school boards, and the legislature, or the Republican leaders in the legislature, and the governor's office kind of brokered this deal to get everyone together to try to make this lawsuit go away. And at the end of the day, they all agreed to it. So there may be some arguments that this is already money that the schools own, really, and that we're paying them with their own money. But that doesn't really matter. Certainly the debates about whether this is fiscally responsible, I think that is really kind of the crux, I think, for a lot of these legislators.
And again, for those who haven't quite kept up to speed on this, and there's a lot to keep up to speed on it, just in general, the lawsuit, it was filed by schools because during the Great Recession, the legislature decided that it was not going to pay inflation funding. And Proposition 301 from back in 2000 requires that every year the legislature increase school funding by the amount of inflation, just to make sure that $1 today buys $1 tomorrow. So the legislature, facing multi-billion-dollar deficits, said we're not going to do that. We can't do it. In order to bridge this budget gap, we're going to forego that. Schools said, okay, well, we're going to sue you because you owe us this money by law, and voters said you have to give us this money. The Supreme Court said, yes, you owe them this money, and then the issue became about how much do they owe, where should this funding level be reset to. A court last year said it should be about $330 million or so every year
that the state needs to pay to education. And this deal for the current year would add about $300 million, so about 3/4 of it.
So, and again, as far as back money owed, there was like $1 billion some odd there, and the deal gets it down to 625. It's
about about $650 million. About
Yeah,
half,
something like
about
that.
half of the money that the legislature illegally withheld from schools will be repaid over the next 10 years under the terms of the deal.
And schools are settling for less money to get the money now, because if they say, if well, we'll get to how many ways this could be tripped up. But if the lawmakers or the Democrats or the schools all said, no, we don't want this, and we're gonna scuttle this, this could stay in the courts for years.
It could, and you're looking at several more years before the Supreme Court would eventually weigh in and say, okay, here's what needs to happen. But even at that point, there is a strain, a school of thought among Republican lawmakers that, well, the court can't tell us to spend any money. They can't. There's a separation of powers issue, and courts do not have the ability to order the legislature to spend money. The authority to legislate or to appropriate is given solely to the legislature. So, there are some down there who would absolutely draw a line in the sand and say, no more, we're going to dig our heels in, we're not going to do this. That creates a constitutional crisis, potentially more years more of litigation to try to resolve that issue. The schools looked at it and said, look, we've been shorted this money since 2010. We need this money, or 2009, we need this money now. The sooner we get it in, even if we get less, if we get 70% of what we're maybe owed, we get it now and we get it guaranteed going forward.
Get it guaranteed going forward, but there are triggers in this proposal that if the economy tanks to a certain degree, and I guess there are specific numbers there that it has to achieve below the ground, and other triggers as well to where the money wouldn't necessarily have. Talk to us about that, because I think a lot of Democrats and opponents are concerned about the triggers.
Yeah, the trigger about the economy, I think, is one that everyone kind of, no one really has a problem with, and that was one that I think even early on the school districts, from what we've understand during these negotiations, agreed that, okay, that's necessary, that when the economy goes in the tank, there needs to be kind of an escape hatch for the legislature, so that way they don't have to pay an extra $60 million a year, in education funding at a time when maybe, say, they have to cut $1 billion out of the budget. So that's one trigger. That's not too controversial, but the one that really I think has people's ire is the idea that if the budget makes up, or if education makes up 50% of or more of the state's budget, that the legislature could then would then not have to pay inflation and could in fact start cutting the education budget and trimming it down by double the amount of the inflation the year prior. So, you could be looking at $100 million, a couple $100 million worth of cuts in that case.
And it's the 49-50% threshold because.
Because that was what they set it at. I don't know that there's necessarily a good reason other than it's a round number.
Okay, but that sounds like it changes inflation adjustments, which sounds like it changes something that was voter approved. Do voters have to approve this change?
Yes, because this change is going to be a special election in May, once it gets approved by the House and the Senate, and it still hasn't gotten the approval there yet, but it should tomorrow. It's a constitutional change, so it'll have to be approved by the voters, and should be one ballot question that encapsulates the trust land and the changes to the inflation payments, and then after tomorrow, it is truly going to be up to the people of Arizona to decide.
But I mean, they can't both be on the same ballot measure, correct? They got to be two separate measures.
No, actually, the way they're structuring it is they're going to put it on as one ballot measure.
Is that constitutional?
They say it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to have one idea, aren't you? I mean, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the idea is that everything is connected with, it's tied together by settling the lawsuit, so they can do it in one fell swoop.
So it sounds like this is going to pass.
I think all indications are right now that it's going to pass.
How soon?
Tomorrow, it looks like.
Tomorrow morning. Early
They're
today.
supposed to come back tomorrow morning. The Senate is already done for the evening. The House isn't yet, but I think it sounds like they will be soon.
But those two provisions, if combined into one ballot measure, or whatever, that still has to pass. If the voters say no, what happens?
Well, then we go back to square one, and this, that really kind of upends the apple cart here, and I don't know at that point. I don't know that anyone has really thought about that, and I don't think it's anything that they're probably going to contemplate seriously until and unless it happens.
Real quickly, we heard from Treasurer Jeff DeWitt. I know that former Treasurer Dean Martin testified today as well. I don't think Martin necessarily talked about a lawsuit idea or taking advancing the withdrawals, increasing the withdrawals, maybe being illegal. But DeWitt has mentioned it on this program and in other forums. He thinks that because it needs congressional approval, and if it doesn't get congressional approval because Congress basically bequeathed the land to us back 100 some odd years ago, you don't get that, someone could file suit. Has he got a point?
The governor's office says no, and the legislature says no, he does not have a point. That in 1999, I think it was, Congress amended the federal statute that has to deal with Arizona's Enabling Act, and Arizona and New Mexico actually. And instead of the law basically saying anything that happens in terms of distributing this trust land, money needs to be approved by Congress, they changed it to say it just needs to follow this provision of the Arizona Constitution. That's what they're changing, is actually that provision of the Arizona Constitution. So their argument is, well, it's kind of self-executing. You know, we changed the Constitution. The federal law says it just has to follow the Constitution. Ergo, anything we do to that Constitution, I guess, is legal.
And so we should not necessarily expect to see Jeff DeWitt filing a lawsuit?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. You know, he certainly has maintained. He's been coy about whether he would actually do it. And his answer when we asked him about that yesterday actually was, well, anybody in Arizona could file a lawsuit. I don't know if everybody in Arizona has access to the money or attorneys needed to do that, though.
Yeah. Well, interesting stuff. It sounds like things will be pretty much finished up tomorrow. Thank you so much for updating us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Mike Shelton is a Yuma City Councilman-elect, a former Arizona Horizon producer, and one of the first kidney transplant recipients to hold public office. We recently spoke with Shelton about his transplant and how it might impact the way he looks at his responsibilities as an elected public official. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Great to be here, Ted.
Good to see you again. Kidney transplant recipient in elective office. How rare is that?
So far as I know, I'm it. I had a conversation with my chief surgeon, Dr. Richard Mulligan, who was the chief surgeon of Mayo Clinic here in Scottsdale, and my chief surgeon. We had a conversation about a month ago, and he said that to his knowledge, in terms of the whole Mayo network, I am the only post-kidney transplanted elected official. And I haven't heard of anyone else really in the country, and I'm a political junkie.
You are indeed, and you've been elected to the Yuma City Council. You haven't quite gotten into office yet. You started sworn in, I think, in January, correct?
That's correct.
What are you concerned about? Do you think, will there be challenges or things you're a little worried about? What do you think?
I have absolutely no worries whatsoever. In fact, one of the reasons I decided to run is because I want people who are facing transplants, who have had a transplant, to know they are capable of doing virtually anything they want to do and to keep their dreams alive. When I went into it, and in fact, let me just back up for a moment. I was at 7% kidney function at the time that I was getting ready for the transplant. I had very few problems because I followed my regime, I followed my diet, I exercised strenuously, I took various herbal supplements with the knowledge of my doctor. And whereas normally someone at 7% kidney function is like death warmed over and needing dialysis, I rejected dialysis. I rejected the thought of it as a primitive, barbaric practice. I know that's going to upset somebody, but I don't care. By really mobilizing my body and having a positive mental attitude, I was able to keep myself going and be really well from all of my blood tests and the way I felt. No fatigue, no metallic taste in my mouth, no anything, until I had my transplant. And I was given by a live donor, a good friend of mine. And in fact, when I did this in 2011, April 2011, there were 381 transplants in Arizona. Fewer than half of those were from live donors. So I'm a product of less than half of those who had transplants during my time.
Was this something that you always knew had to happen? You say you didn't necessarily feel all that bad, but you knew it was coming around the pike, didn't you?
Actually, about a year earlier, it was clear that I was having a rapid decline. And my doctors warned me that I was going to need dialysis. And obviously, simultaneous with that time, my wife had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the plan was, because she was feeling all right, she was fine, but she had a rapid decline at the same time. And instead of her taking care of me, I was trying to save her. And I lost her in late 2010.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But in my case, once it was clear that I was going to need a transplant, I did everything I could really to save myself. I juiced vegetables, and I hate vegetables, but I found a way to like them. I followed my doctor's instructions. I made a partner of my doctor. When we were at loggerheads about dialysis, we had a long conversation about that, and I brought her over to my side, but we had frequent tests to make sure that I was okay. And in fact, in my blood tests, it showed me fine in every way, except in the amount of creatinine, which is the amount of protein in your body. That was too high. That was like the final determinant. But in everything else, I was fine. So when it comes to serving in office, what I'm going to bring is a different kind of perspective. I'm not just thinking about budgets and taxes. I'm thinking about life and death. I'm thinking about the dignity of the individual. I'm thinking about telling the truth. I'm talking about respecting the individual. That is like my core value, and that everything else is going to emanate from that.
Did the transplant change those views in any way?
No. No, I looked forward to it. I prepared myself for it. I trained for it in terms of training my body and really in my will to live. So no, it was a natural progression. In fact, I'll give you one quick story out of that. When I was at Mayo Clinic, hours after the transplant, I was given a morphine drip that I could hit a button and ease any pain. Well, the nurse kept coming in saying, "Oh, Mike, why haven't you used your morphine drip? Aren't you in pain?" I said, "No, I'm not in pain. Would you like me to be in pain? I don't like pain. If I'm in pain, I'll hit the button." They had never had anyone who was in zero pain after a major operation. I had none.
Indeed, but I still want to know if this whole transplant changed your view of life, your view of politics, just your view of... A lot of folks go through something like this and they sense themselves changing. Are you saying you're no changes at all?
I was already in that train of thought, so to speak. I was an extremely strong will to live. I had a very strong sense of the dignity of the individual. Sometimes I followed authority, sometimes I rejected it. And in fact, I was asked to go on dialysis multiple times. And I followed my instinct, no. Plus, I did things that were, in reality, very smart to keep myself from becoming so debilitated that I would need it. So when it comes to politics, here's the core view. Prevention is better than cure.
Indeed.
So when you think of everything in life, whether it's the way you deal with taxes, whether the way you're dealing with citizens, you want to prevent problems. not allow them to fester and escalate to the point you need some radical remedy.
And last question, that's the same message to those facing health issues, I would imagine, as well.
Yes, it is. If you're facing a serious health issue, don't face it with vodka and a pile of ribs. Follow your diet, make your doctor your partner, and do the things that will make you better in the end. That's the message I'm putting out.
The anti-vodka and a pile of ribs diet.
Well,
All right, we got you. Mike, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
thank you, Ted.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Art Beat highlights an exhibit at the Renaissance Hotel that allows for a look at Phoenix in a whole new light. Producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Kyle Mounts take us on a tour of 26 blocks.
On the lower level of the Renaissance Hotel is an exhibit that's a roadmap of Phoenix's history and its future.
26 blocks is a collaborative art project. It's 26 writers, 26 photographers, all teamed up into 26 teams and put on 26 city blocks.
The end result is an unflinching look at the city that has grown, for good or bad, into what it is today. The photographs and accompanying essays focus on 26 random blocks in downtown Phoenix. The photographers and writers collaborated on what to shoot and what to write to best represent their block.
You're loving this, aren't you? That's the way. Face up there. Good.
Wayne Rainey, who owns a downtown art gallery, and Megan Finnerty, an Arizona Republic reporter, were assigned the block that's occupied by the Renaissance Hotel. Rainey knew he wanted to photograph Rhonda Benston, the bartender.
I don't think it took us any time at all to come to the decision that it would be Rhonda. I mean, she not only is symbolic of the history here, but she participated in it as well, and she really created a lot of it.
And Rhonda does have a long history with the hotel. Her first day on the job was July 3rd, 1975. Back then, the Renaissance was known as the Adams.
Oh, downtown has changed. When I first started working here in 1975, there were still the stores, Newberry's and Woolworth's, and then through the years, it started kind of going down, and businesses were moving out of the city. And now in the last 10 years with ASU and with the light rail, downtown Phoenix is becoming a big city now. You're proud to be down here because there's things, the theater, restaurants, bars to go to. So it has changed. Unbelievable.
For Rainey, the challenge proved to be where to photograph Rhonda.
We thought about shooting her in the environment where she's most comfortable, which is behind the bar. But that just seemed too, I don't know, it seemed a little bit too plain. It seemed not to pack any of the metaphorical punch that we were looking for. And so we just, we looked around the block a bit, and eventually we ended up on the roof.
It was incredible. I mean, you could see for miles and miles, and I was like, oh my God, here I am, 40 years, I'm on top of the hotel. Doesn't get any better than that.
For Finnerty, writing about Rhonda was like writing a master's thesis. She used to be on the nightlife and events beat at the newspaper.
One of my big curiosities is, how do we combat loneliness in our culture? And that's like Rhonda's full-time job. She's not really a person that just makes drinks. I mean, she's really a person whose full-time job is to make people feel welcome and ergo less lonely, even when they're really far from home or they don't know anyone in town. And I was like, God, I can't think of a more important job. Okay, baby brain surgeon, but other than that.
26 Blocks is the brainchild of ghostwriter Joey Robert Parks. He wanted to find a way to draw people to the burgeoning metropolis, but in a way that also made people think.
And so the whole idea of the project was to show different perspectives. And so they had to think of a way to celebrate the city, right? Celebrate creatives, but celebrate the city as a whole.
Parks also brought on sculptor Rafael Navarro. Navarro took small blocks of wood and created tableaus to go with the photos and essays.
It was kind of difficult because some were empty lots. So from that, I had to look at the writing or the photography and come up with an idea. A lot of times there were details on the architecture. So I use those details on the sculptures.
The details captured by all the creatives is the glue that holds the exhibit together. An exhibit that is a labor of love, an ode to the city they call home, a city you'll never look at the same way again.
This is a window into a reality or a part of the city's reality that you don't have access to until this art project opens that door for you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Arizona Artbeat is made possible in part by the Flynn Foundation, supporting the advancement of arts and culture in Arizona.